This is a hand grenade. And this is Mistborn, a book. One blows up people, the other blows up brains. I literally read Mistborn in 3 days, like 7 hours of reading each day. That's how totally enthralling this book is. There are a lot of things that are different and exciting about Mistborn, so let's jump right into it. Sanderson has created such a unique world that feels right at home in fantasy and yet totally foreign. And that is something extremely hard to accomplish. I really felt like he created the perfect atmosphere of a world and people who are utterly crushed and devastated and repressed by a tyrant of just godlike powers who there was absolutely no hope of overthrowing. I'm gonna take this review in a bit of a different direction here. Everyone talks about Vin and Kelsier, but I'm actually going to start with Ellen Venture because he was a surprise character that I ended up totally loving. You see, Ellen Venture is such a great character because he wants to change the world with ideas. And he reads books during balls. And as a side note, I just love that he was called at one point a gentleman anarchist. And see, so this is a point right here where Ellen Venture and Mistborn are super different. Usually the scholar is some like old bumbling mage offering avuncular advice and throwing a misplaced fireball that nevertheless slays the beast. But Mistborn really pushes and expands the genre here by showing us a young idealist who loves to read and believes he can change the world with his thoughts. So fuck yes to reading and fuck yes to changing the world with books. It doesn't always have to be done with the edge of a sword. Okay, that kind of happens, but one of the other really special things that I think goes unmentioned or doesn't get brought to the forefront of discourse enough is that Mistborn is a book that loves books. There are a bunch of books within the book, which I had such a fun time discovering. I even wrote down like a bunch of their names and was just like keeping track. It was like a fun treasure hunt. And chief among those books was the Lord Ruler's Diary. So to me, like the Lord Ruler's Diary was one of the most enthralling parts of the entire novel because it was like a secret look inside the mind of the Lord Ruler before he becomes this psycho, all-powerful god tyrant. So it really draws you in because you want to know, like, all right, somewhere in these diary entries, we're gonna see like the event that changed this guy forever and then changed this world forever. Also, it's kind of like you're getting 2 books for one because all the entries add up basically to another book. So thanks for that, Brandon Sanderson. Now, saying that Mistborn has a plot is a total disservice to what Brandon Sanderson has created and the ride that he takes us on. Mistborn is a masterstroke of storytelling. Brandon Sanderson has gone beyond plot. The closing moments of this book are so hugely mind-blowing and so full of twists and reveals and revelations and just everything coming together to create a truly wild and totally new kind of reading experience. I would actually call this apocalyptic in like the biblical sense of heaven-rending revelations. Now, when it comes to Vin, Sanderson makes excellent use of her background to create tension and intrigue. Since as like the story progresses, you really wonder how Vin is going to maintain allegiance to the one person she trusts, herself, and the new crew she's with, and the new group of nobility that they've kind of thrust her into. Like, you're just waiting for her to betray them, or them to betray her, or the nobility to betray like all of them. I mean, Martin would have done it by like page 50. So I mean, yeah, even like reading this after the YA wave, Vin has a beautiful but unsurprising character arc. Oh, and I love the ball scenes. Like, I want more ball scenes. like how much no book's ever gonna make me say that? I want more ball scenes. Like, this is not really like a Jane Austen channel, but hey, maybe it should be. Now, Kelsier for me was kind of initially a vanilla protagonist with a very familiar arc for vengeance. He's like the chosen one. He survives a terrible past, and now he's out to settle scores all over town, and nothing's gonna hold him back. But again, as the story progressed, I kind of fell under the spell of Kelsier. I kind of fell under the spell of Kel, and I absolutely loved him by the end of the book. Importantly, what actually surprised me the most about Kelsier is that Sanderson started to use him to like gently probe what it means to be a protagonist in the fantasy genre. Like, we are all suckers for a charismatic leader, but Sanderson reminds us to kind of like step back and question like, hey, is this guy here for the right reasons? Or does he just really like being popular? Does he like being popular just a little bit too much? Like, is all this fame going to go to his head if his plan actually works? And then what does that mean for everyone? Like, could this guy actually become the next Lord Ruler? Yeah, so I thought this is a really exciting angle to take with the novel, and it's something that is super special about Mistborn. Now, allomancy and ferochemistry are both very well thought out magical systems, and I think very innovative in their own right. They're definitely an interesting departure from traditional fantasy magic where much is left to the imagination, in which I usually prefer. Mistborn's magic system, does get a little clunky in some places, especially I think in fights. And while I didn't totally love it, I will always celebrate an author who does something new and different. And that's what Mistborn was and is to this day. Something new and different, and definitely a great read. I know there's a pretty established conversation around this book, but let me know if you were new to reading it like I was, or if you thought there was something that maybe deserves more discussion, because as Kelsier says, there's always another secret.